India is a great country, no doubt about it. But India is also one of the most conquered and invaded countries in the world. A land of extraordinary people, extraordinary wealth, and extraordinary civilization. And yet, foreign power after foreign power came in and took it. The Greeks, the Arabs, the Mughals, the British, for over 1,000 years. So, how does a great civilization keep falling for external powers over and over again and again? Today, I'm going to tell you one of the main reasons, not geography, not bad luck, but one of the main bleeding wounds in the Indian psyche. India's caste system, over more than 2,000 years old, but not a relic of the past, still very much alive, very much prevalent, and very much practiced, and more politically dangerous than at any point after independence. This is the story of caste system in India. To understand how far India fell, you need to understand what was it before. The Indus Valley civilization, which flourished between 3300 and 1300 BCE, was one of the most advanced societies on earth. Cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa had underground sewage systems, standardized urban planning, public baths, and a level of civic infrastructure that Europe could not match for another 2000 years. Archaeologists have found something remarkable at these cities. Almost no evidence of extreme social hierarchy, no towering royal palaces over slums, no massive tombs for kings, while commoners go unmarked. Relatively equal housing, relatively distributed wealth, and critically, almost no evidence of the rigid caste system that would later define and ultimately damage India. So, where did the caste system come from? Around 1500 BCE, the Indo-Aryan migration brought new people and new ideas to the Indian subcontinent. Out of this collision emerged the Varna system, four pillars of society. Brahmins at the top of the pillar as the priests and scholars. Kshatriyas, who ruled the country and fought for the country. Vaishyas, who were the business people predominantly. Merchants and farmers. And Shudras as laborers and servants. In its earliest conception, some scholars argue this was meant to be occupational, a division of labor, not a permanent hierarchy of birth. Every Vedic text have passages suggesting a person's varna could reflect their qualities, not just their parentage. The varna just told you about someone's profession, and the profession could change any time. But then the system hardened catastrophically. Through later Vedic period, through Manusmriti, the laws of Manu, one of the most hardened and the most cruel laws in the human history. The system calcified into something rigid, hereditary, and absolute. You were born in a caste, you died in it, your children inherited it. There was no system to outgrow your caste. No intelligence, no courage, no virtue could move you from one to the other. The laws of Manu specified in detail what each caste should eat, wear, own, and aspire to. It specified punishments, different punishments for the same crime depending on your caste. A Brahmin who insulted a Shudra paid a small fine. A Shudra who insulted a Brahmin could have his tongue cut out. And then, below all four Varnas, a fifth category emerged. Not a caste within the system, a category outside the humanity itself. The people assigned the work considered most polluting, handling corpses, tanning leather, cleaning waste. These people were considered so impure that their touch, their shadow, even the sound of their footsteps could pollute an upper caste person. They were the Avarnas, the outcasts, the people we today call Dalits. For over 2000 years, across the Indian subcontinent, the following things happened to Dalits systematically, lawfully. Dalits were forbidden from entering temples, forbidden from using upper caste wells, required in many regions to wear a clay pot around their neck to spit into so their saliva would not contaminate the ground, required to tie a broom to their waist so their footsteps could be swept away. In parts of South India, their shadows falling on an upper caste person was considered ritual pollution requiring purification. They could not wear shoes in the presence of upper castes, could not build houses above a certain height, could not ride horses, could not carry umbrellas, could not wear gold, could not learn Sanskrit, the language of knowledge, of flow, of religion. Because that knowledge was a property of the Brahmins, and a Dalit who learned it was a threat to the entire system. In the Manusmriti, it's clearly written that if a Shudra outcast listened to Vedas, molten lead should be poured into his ears. If he recites the Vedas, his tongue should be cut out. If he memorizes them, his body should be cut in two. This is what was taught, honored, and enforced as divine law for centuries in India. Dalits were also completely excluded from bearing arms. When Alexander the Great reached India in 326 BCE, he was commanding an exhausted army far from home, and he still won. When Muhammad bin Qasim invaded Sindh in 711 CE with a force significantly smaller than the defending army, he still won. When Mahmud of Ghazni raided India 17 times between 1001 and 1027 CE, looting temple after temple, city after city, he faced fragmented resistance only that never unified into a decisive response. When Muhammad of Ghor defeated Prithviraj Chauhan at the Second Battle of Tarain in 1192 CE and ended Hindu political dominance in North India for centuries, the defeat was not just military, it was a failure of a society as a whole. The Kshatriya warrior caste was a tiny part of the population, but they were the ones who had the right to fight for the land and protect it from invaders. The vast majority of India, the Shudras and Dalits, who were doing much of the job in India, were systematically excluded from warfare and defending the country. They were stripped of weapons, denied the dignity that makes a man willing to die for something. So, why would a Dalit serf fight to preserve a kingdom that treated him as subhuman? Why would low caste communities organize resistance against an Arab or Mongol invader when that invader could not possibly treat them worse than their own social system already did? And even if they wanted to, they were not allowed. When Muhammad bin Qasim arrived in Sindh, local Jat communities, lower caste groups who had been brutalized under the existing social order, in many cases did not resist. Some assisted the invaders, not because they were traitors, because they had no country worth a word. The British understood this with clinical precision. Robert Clive did not actually invade India, did not actually conquer India. He navigated India's internal divisions with genius-level precision. The Battle of Plassey in 1757, the battle that handed Bengal and eventually all of India to the British, was won largely because Mir Jafar, the commander of the Nawab's army, was bribed to stand his troops down. The British needed only to find the right internal fracture to exploit. India had thousands to choose from. The social contract between India's rulers and its Dalit and low caste majority had been so thoroughly destroyed that no popular uprising on the scale needed to expel the British was psychologically possible. Jyotirao Phule wrote in 1873 that the caste system was not divine but a political weapon. A political weapon chosen by the upper caste Brahmins so as to control the majority of the population. He opened schools for Dalit and women. He was excommunicated for his sin. B.R. Ambedkar, a Dalit who earned doctorates from Columbia University and the London School of Economics, who was arguably the most academically credentialed person in early 20th century India, was not allowed to drink water from the same source as upper caste people in his home village. He wrote in his book that the caste system was not a division of labor, but a division of laborers, a hierarchy of permanent human worth assigned at birth and justified by gods. He said plainly that India could never be truly strong, truly free, or truly unified as long as India maintained this system. According to India's National Crime Records Bureau, a crime against a Dalit is recorded every 15 minutes in India. And that is only what gets reported in a country where Dalit victims are routinely silenced into submission, where police stations in upper caste dominated villages turn away Dalit complainants, where filing an FIR against an upper caste man can result in your entire family being driven out of the village. The practice of manual scavenging, cleaning human excrement by hand from dry latrines, from sewers, from septic tanks was made illegal in India in 1993. Then again in 2013 with stronger provisions. But as of 2023, the government's own Safari Karamchari Andolan estimates that over 40,000 people are still doing it. Almost all of them Dalits. Between 2017 and 2023, over 300 people died cleaning sewers, suffocated by toxic gases in manholes, while contractors denied they employed manual scavengers and the government denied they existed. Their families received little or no compensation. Their deaths barely made the news. In Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, untouchability is not a relic of the past. It is infrastructure. There are villages with two different kinds of taps, one for upper caste and one for the lower caste. Two separate sides of the classroom. Dalit children are supposed to sit on the ground, while upper caste children sit on the benches. Dalit children made to clean the school toilets, made to eat separately, often outside. This is happening in government schools in India, funded by taxpayers. In Rajasthan, a 2023 survey by the National Dalit Movement for Justice found that in over 60% of surveyed villages, Dalits were still not permitted to enter the main temple. In over 40%, Dalits were expected to dismount from bicycles and motorcycles when passing upper caste homes. In multiple villages, Dalit wedding processions were still not permitted to pass through the main street of the village because that street belonged by unwritten law to the upper caste. In Bihar, Dalit women are a tool for punishment. When a Dalit family refuses to do bonded labor, or dares to educate their children, or engages in a land dispute with the upper caste, the response is frequently the rape of their women. It is systematic, it is known, and convictions are rare because the police, the local administration, and in many cases the judiciary are dominated by the same upper caste who benefit from the system. In Tamil Nadu, in 2019, a Dalit man named P. Ramkumar was killed because he had a moustache. Upper caste men in his village felt that a Dalit wearing a moustache was a display of arrogance, so they killed him because of a moustache. We are talking about a country who produced Aryabhatta, who invented zero, that produced Shishruda, who performed surgery 2000 years before Europe did, that produced the Arthashastra, one of the most sophisticated political treatises ever written. And in that same country, in the 21st century, a man was murdered for wearing a moustache because his caste was considered too low to display self-respect. This is a system that has cost India dearly and which still does.